Hello and welcome back to the Week in Nintendo right here on GVG. I'm your host again this week, Steve Bowling. Thank you so much to John for hosting last week's episode. As you may know now, I wasn't able to host last week because I was out covering Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. I played it at a preview event, which took me away from my home. I played it in New York, which ironically is also where I played the Rebirth demo that we recently covered. But I'm joined this week by both John, who's returning, and Ash, who hasn't been back in a while. I'm going to start with Ash. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. I'm hanging in there. I've been checking out, of course, your Yoshi preview, Steve, that you just mentioned, as well as our, Rebirth preview and side-by-side footage, and you both killed it. No surprise there. Really, really great stuff, guys. And I'm happy to be here to talk about everything we're going to go over today. And I'm a little groggy. Our building's fire alarm went off at like 4 a.m. this morning, so we all had to do the shuffling downstairs and waiting awkwardly on the curb for like an hour while the fire department investigated. So that wasn't too fun. I'm a little groggy, but other than that, I'm okay. Doing all right.
Nice. Yeah, it is early here. We tend to record the Week in Nintendo pretty early in the morning so that we can get it out faster. It's 6:30 a.m. for me too. I'm wearing my finest pajama pants under out of frame. I managed to. It's a funny story because I did not plan to cover Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I didn't know that I was going to have the opportunity to. Nintendo flew us out to New York to check out Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, and while I was on the plane, I had noticed that a lot of my friends who work at Square Enix were in New York, and I had been talking to them about other coverage opportunities that I can't discuss, and so I replied to an email, and I just said, hey, I noticed a lot of people I like are in New York. Is there something going on? And they were like, hey, it's funny you mentioned that. There is. If you're in town, why don't you come to this address and we'll show you? And so I didn't know what I was walking into, and they just happened to have Rebirth on Switch 2, which was the ideal thing for me to walk into. So I played the demo a couple weeks ago. But it was like an in and out kind of thing. I flew in, I played, and I literally had to leave, early so that I could catch my flight home. So I just dropped in, played about 20 minutes of the demo. Which leads me into my intro to our good pal, John. John, you covered the demo at length because we knew, fortunately, thanks to having the preview, we knew that the eShop demo was coming. So you knew pretty much exactly when it was going to be live, but you just powered through that thing, didn't you?
Yeah, we knew when it was going to go live. We didn't know it was going to be 45 gigabytes, so pretty lengthy download time. And then the demo ends at the beginning of Chapter 3, which is bulky. Like, Chapter 1's fairly quick, but Chapter 2, you've got the open world, lots to explore, lots to see. And we also recorded the PS5 version around the same time as well. So there was a lot going on there to do in a short time. And it's pretty good. They've done really well squeezing that thing down. But obviously, Remake, and I guess Integrate is, that was more PS5, but Remake, the original version, is a PS4 game. So translating that to the Switch 2, that's feasible. That makes sense. Not many compromises there, really. Taking a open world PS5 game, though, and putting that on Switch 2, that's a bit more of a squish. And I think for the most part, they've made some really intelligent optimizations. When you're just going around the world and you're in combat watching cutscenes, it's all pretty good. And the image quality, I'd say, is actually ahead of PS5's performance mode. We've done a bunch of side-by-sides, and just the raw output quality is clearer. It's not clearer than quality mode, but it's definitely clearer than performance. But performance, of course, is 60 FPS, whereas on Switch 2, we're dealing with 30 FPS and below. And for this kind of game, which isn't that input heavy, like a lot of the time you're holding that Y button, you're going into menus, not much is that reliant on inputs, really. And I think considering the hardware and the scope, it's forgivable. And I think this is just a really impressive port.
I agree with you. I think that when I played it in New York, because, Square Enix was very restrictive in what I was allowed to look at. I just got handheld mode, no docked mode at all, no footage that I could take. And it led me, there's something about previews like that where you're like, oh, they're not very confident. They're they're trying to hide something because they know. But then you kind of have to balance that with the fact that they were doing a preview at all,
Mhm.
But when I played it, I noticed frame dips. I noticed there were drops. I knew it was below 30, but I couldn't tell by how much. But still, when I was looking at it, I'm like, this doesn't look like a game they shouldn't be confident in. And now that I've played the demo properly at home in docked mode on my own TV, yeah, I'm back to being pretty darn impressed by it. I haven't played the whole demo just because it like you said, it's a huge demo and it takes a while. But I played the opening bit with Zach. I got to Calm. I've been running around there, and it's really, really cool to see this. Like, it still wows me in a way similar to what Remake managed to. In some ways more so, because like you said, it's a big open world game as opposed to a more guided experience. So I think the trade-offs aren't nearly as bad as I feared. Obviously, there's that one screenshot from our video that's going all over social media of the empty table. And I'm like, these are just props though. Like, this doesn't affect the gameplay.
People lost their minds over that. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny just to see an empty table, and people are actually taking it really seriously. I think in Tifa's house, it does lose some storytelling, because you walk into that house and you see like wine bottles everywhere. Like it's implying that Tifa's dad has drinking problems, and that stuff's it's still there kind of, but it's mostly erased. And then you get to Tifa's room. The hat's not on the shelf anymore. The poster with dolphins, which is like foreshadowing later in the game, that's not there anymore. That kind of stuff is strange. But it's mostly upon comparison that you see that stuff. And outside of Tifa's house, man, I don't think it's a big deal, really.
Yeah, I have to agree that that's definitely the most egregious example. The only other thing I noticed, and I played a little bit of the demo, less than you, Steve, but I did dabble around in it, mainly in the area with Zach and Calm and Tifa's house. But I was watching some comparison footage, as I said, including our own. And the only other thing that stood out to me is in the grasslands when you're stalking your first chocobo. And you're moving really slowly. The pop-in is super obvious on the grass blades. And it definitely is like, oh, wow, I could notice that. But that's like the slowest paced version of that whole part of the game. And then, like you were saying earlier, John, when you're just running around fighting enemies, watching cutscenes, and generally just getting on with the action, it's really not very noticeable. It's only in those quieter moments that you're like, oh, that's a little, whatever. But it doesn't like pull you out. And it's when you step back and you think about how just damn impressive it is that they got a game of this scope running the way they have in this demo. It's just pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's three like core cutbacks. It's the pop-in, which is noticeable, but I think when you're playing, you're not noticing that much because you're more so focusing on the character rather than the distance. That's more of a comparison thing. The hair, though, depending on some shots. On close shots, hair looks pretty great. But on certain angles, you definitely see a lot of dithering and just DOSS artifacts. Same for shadows. Sometimes you can see a little bit of visual noise in the shadows. And then it's the item culling, where things are just either taken away or reduced greatly. But Rebirth is a lot freer than Remake was, and a lot more minigame heavy than Remake was. And a lot of those minigames are great for portable play. I mean, Queen's Blood, just on its own, is great for a handheld.
Yeah.
We haven't got all the Gold Saucer stuff in the demo, but a lot of that stuff's going to be really fun just to like take out of your bag and play on a train or whatever. Like it's actually quite great for a portable, this game.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. But it leads me to a topic that I've really wanted to discuss, and that I think is probably going to be the primary topic of this week's episode. Mm-hmm. And that is what are we willing to accept from a Switch 2 port? There are people out there that are really upset about Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. I don't understand them, but I can see the comments. People who are like, "Oh, this is the worst version. It's terrible." And to be fair, on some level, it is true that this is the quote unquote worst version, right? It looks worse. It performs worse than probably anything but the Xbox Series S, which I didn't test the demo on because I can't remember the last time I played an Xbox Series S. But I also think that this doesn't rise to the level of, oh my gosh, I have to play this on a competing platform. It's not good enough. I will say that I did have that experience with Pragmata, which it kills me to say it Pragmata, by the way.
I know, same.
My brain says Pragmata, but after having played the game, I now know it's Pragmata, and I hate that. But I had an interesting experience with that game. I was playing it on Switch 2, and it is a serviceable port. I want to be clear, but for that game in particular, I wanted the best visual fidelity. I think that Diana felt a bit lifeless on the Switch 2, so I ended up picking it on PS5, and I played through it there, and I feel like she felt like more of a fleshed out character. I don't know if it was the lighting or what it was, but her animations felt much more realistic to me on PS5 Pro than they did on Switch 2.
Mm-hmm. It definitely depends on the game. With Capcom, again, with Resident Evil Requiem, I think they definitely need frame rate caps. I'd love a 30 cap or a 40 cap. That would change a lot. But that version of the game is terrific. There's very few noticeable cutbacks. The hair is one, same with Pragmata. But it's not that big of a deal, especially when you're playing in first person most of the time, where you're not really seeing hair. It just felt like it was less like on Switch 1, where you have all these compromises where it's like low resolution, muddy textures and all that. It just felt like I was playing Resident Evil. It looked like how I remember playing 7 and Village, just on a handheld, which was nuts. And I think for that kind of game, while I would like a cap, there wasn't really enough compromises for me to go like, this is clearly a lesser experience. It was just Resident Evil.
I agree with that. RE9, I played on Switch 2. I played it all the way through. This was another game that I picked up on both, but I actually just played through it on Switch 2. I've barely touched my PS5 copy. So my PS5 copy is still like at the opening bit with Grace, whereas I completed the entire game on Switch 2. No regrets. Never felt like I was missing something. I think the visuals of RE9 on Switch 2 are fantastic. I agree with the frame cap comments. But I feel like with Pragmata, I was noticing too many things. I was like, the textures here are really soft. Diana looks a bit washed out. And to me, I think it might have been because it was third person, and because in a lot of places it was clear that Capcom was trying to show off ray traced reflections and more higher end tech that is more difficult on Switch 2, that I wanted to see what the full artistic vision for that game was. And I felt like it was somewhat compromised, but I mean, if those are things that don't matter to you, like it's not like the worst Switch 1 ports where it feels almost unplayable. It was just that I wanted to see this at the highest possible visual fidelity. And so I felt like I needed to play it on PS5 Pro to get that experience I was after. But I want to be clear that from a gameplay perspective, it functions perfectly on Switch 2. Like, I had no issues with that. And if you play it primarily in portable mode, which is not something I wanted to do for that game, it looks great in handheld. I just wanted to play this on a giant screen with ray traced reflections and everything looking as nice as it can. And I don't regret the choice, but I will say I have since gone back and started playing through it again on Switch 2, just because if you've played the whole game, and I'm not going to give any spoilers here, there are some bosses that are absolutely massive in scope, and I wanted to see how Switch 2 handled those.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about Indiana Jones and the Massive Circle? That's out in like a week. The easy compromise with a lot of like PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X ports to Switch 2 is just a half the frame rate. And that's what we've done with Rebirth. The Capcom games haven't done that, and they should do that, but they haven't. With Indiana Jones, it's going to be 30 FPS. How do you feel about sacrificing that for a shooter? Which obviously we did a lot on Switch 1. All the id Software and Machine Games ports were 30, so Wolfenstein and Doom. They're doing that again here, just without like the level of visual compromise we had last time.
If we were in a world where Mouse PI hadn't just come out on Switch 2, I would have said, no way. I do not want a 30 FPS shooter. I played Mouse PI on PC at 165 FPS.
Jeez. Yeah. Oh, man.
And went down to the Switch port. And while I don't think that Mouse PI is the best Switch port in the world, I do think that it made me realize that maybe I was being a bit elitist about frame rate in shooters, because I'm very traditionally like a 60 FPS or go home guy when it comes to twitchy games like that. But I honestly found that 30 FPS in a boomer shooter even wasn't really anything to it didn't ruin my time playing it. I was still just kind of shooting enemies and having fun with it. Now, in a competitive online multiplayer shooter, yeah, I don't think 30 FPS can fly. But in something like a single player story driven shooter like Mouse PI or Indie, I honestly don't know that I would have an issue with it. And one of the things that I'm interested in is because Indie is first person, like with RE9, that may actually lead to a better overall visual performance for that game.
Mm-hmm. Some good motion blur would go a long way for Indie. We haven't played it yet, obviously. Don't know if it even supports mouse. We know it has gyro at the very least. But I'm pretty excited for that one. It's the only physical version of that game that's actually on the cartridge or disc, because the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions are not on the disc. So this is the only version that has like content complete on the package. I think it looks great. But obviously it depends how it plays. But some of my favorite games of all time, like Halo 3 on 360, that was 30 FPS. Obviously it's 60 now in Master Chief Collection. But I've enjoyed so many shooters at 30 FPS. I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I don't even remember what GoldenEye ran at, but I think that was like a cultural movement. It certainly wasn't 60.
Yeah. No, it was 20 and below.
I was gonna say it didn't run anywhere remotely close to 60. So yeah, it is funny because I tend to be one of the things I like to remind people of when we get into these debates about frame rate is that your favorite games didn't run at 60 FPS. Like list out your favorite games, at least one of them was 30 or below. And
like Shadow of the Colossus is like 15 FPS a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, but I think we're in a strange space because I feel like I'm seeing more apparent cutbacks in Switch 2 ports, but I also feel like they're nowhere near as egregious as they were in the Switch 1 era. We're not in the world of games that I'm surprised even run at all. The Witcher 3, Doom, or gosh, what was it? Just Doom, wasn't it?
We had Doom and Doom Eternal on the Switch somehow.
Yeah.
Those games seemed impossible. Like Panic Button was doing God's work back on the original Switch. And I don't think we've reached that level yet. I don't think I've seen a game where I'm just like, how does this even work? The Switch 2 seems capable of pulling off ports. And while there are very obvious visual compromises made to get them there, especially in frame rate, right? Like when you're having the frame rate, that's the most obvious thing. But we're not at a place where it's, running at a resolution that's so muddy that it looks like a YouTube video on a bad cell phone connection or anything. I don't know what I would say in terms of where I would draw the line. I think it just comes down, like you said, John, on a game by game basis to what the artistic direction was. Was it made to showcase, the PS5 Pro and all its glory, and it just kind of got shrunk down onto the Switch 2? In those cases, I might say, you know what, I'll play that on PS5 Pro because that's what the developer was aiming for, and someone came in and said, hey, we got to put it on Switch. But the vast majority of games just seem to fit really nicely onto Nintendo's hardware.
I agree with that, and that to me makes it all the more apparent when you do come across that occasional Switch 2 port that is kind of genuinely disappointing, and that kind of happened for me recently. Maybe this is my little imaginary line that I drew for myself, but that happened for me recently. Well, I say recently, a few months ago with Yooka-Laylee, and that just recently got a 60 FPS performance patch that for me changes the game night and day, because I was looking forward to seeing what they were doing with Yooka-Laylee just in a general sense, and I was like, oh, Switch 2 is where I'm going to play it. You get the original version owner discount. It's totally going to be 60 FPS on Switch 2, right? It's Switch 2, of course. Why wouldn't it be? Then it launched and it wasn't. It was just max, locked 30 FPS, and it felt slow. It felt chunky. You could feel that input delay. It just did not feel good to play, and I'm like, man, this is a bad port. And then the performance patch dropped, and visual quality takes more of a hit than I like, especially in handheld mode, but the game feels night and day better to play. And as we were talking about earlier, that's kind of a genre-dependent thing too, how important 60 FPS is. And in a genre like platformers, 2D or 3D, I think that's fairly important. And so for me, it took the game from one of the most disappointing Switch 2 ports to one that feels so much better to play now.
Yeah, that's one where I just said no.
Yeah,
when it first came. I was like, I don't want that.
Yeah,
I guess that's what the line is. If
Yeah.
it's a game that looks like it should run at like a decent amount on Switch 2, like it should be 60, and it isn't. That's an easy way to say no.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
if it's plausible and the game would still be great with it, then yeah, which is what you did in the end. So that's great to see.
Yeah.
With Overwatch as well, that launched at 30, which seems to be a bug. And I tried playing a few rounds. I was like, I don't want to play Overwatch at 30. And then the patch came out, and I played a few rounds. It's pretty great. And I think Switch 2 is in a good place in that a lot of games available also have PS4 versions, and they also have Series S versions. And so the compromises never really need to be that wide. It's only really like the current gen exclusive ones or like PS5 tailored ones that need to have those big compromises in there. But even then, like Steve was touching on earlier, we haven't really had a game that goes that far yet. Like Pragmata might be the most glaring example because the resolution does go pretty low in that game. But other than that, like Dynasty Warriors Origins, great. Assassin's Creed Shadows, great. Like there aren't that many poor ones right now.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I don't think Pragmata is necessarily poor either. But it is, for me, it was the one that got me to like rebuy the game on another platform and play it. But I still think it's a perfectly playable version of the game. It's a lot of fun. Like I've been having fun now that I've played through it on my TV. I'm happy to play it portably. I'll be sitting at my desk doing other things, and I'll run through a level on the Switch 2 version. I'm like, this was cool. I like this. It wasn't the primary way I wanted to play. I think they did far better with RE9, but I think that it's a decent enough port. And if you only have Switch 2, you're not missing out on something fundamental to the game. It's just if you have the option, I'd say PS5 Pro, it's going to look a lot better. I'm curious in the future what we're going to see that might be the game that shows the cracks in the armor, and the one, of course, that jumps to mind, for me at least, is GTA 6.
Yeah.
I feel like if Rockstar puts it on there, one, they won't give it their best effort, and two, it's a big enough game that I think that could potentially stress the Switch 2 to the point where you start to see like, oh, this shouldn't be here.
Yeah. I mean, Switch 1 had that moment with the GTA trilogy where like it looked bad, it ran badly. And that was just a poor job all in all. The Switch should have been able to handle PS2 games, but there were Unreal Engine 4. There was a lot of wacky stuff in that one. Like Switch 2 brought that up. It made it run pretty well. But that was, it was running at like 20 FPS a lot of the time. It was very low resolution. With GTA 6, I expect if they do get it to work, it's probably not going to run that smoothly. Like GTA 4 and GTA 5 don't run that smoothly on 360 and PlayStation 3. So that they have a history of shipping games that don't necessarily hit their targets. Not so much in the modern era, but they did in the past. I think they probably could squeeze it on. But whether it's going to run good or look good it's definitely going to take a lot of hits. They'll have to remove a lot of stuff, decrease the traffic a bunch, decrease the NPCs a bunch. But portable GTA is always very appealing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the cutoff is there.
I was going to say, I think that a lot of our audience, a lot of people who regularly watch GVG don't know just how much we like GTA here.
Yeah.
You did a whole video on what was it, Chinatown Wars? Or
we did it on all the Nintendo GTAs. So the Game Boy Color games, the Game Boy Advance game, Chinatown Wars, the trilogy.
Yeah, to take things to a more personal note for a second, John, are you excited for GTA 6? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I am. They haven't really shown gameplay yet, though, so it's hard to get like that attached. It's just sort of been cinematic so far.
Yeah, I am unreasonably hyped for how little we've seen. And it's just because it's GTA 6. I've been playing GTA since, realistically, since GTA 2. my buddy rented it at a Blockbuster. That's how long ago GTA 2 came out. And we picked it up, and then I ended up playing GTA London and then going back to GTA 1. Obviously, if you were around for GTA 3, it was a cultural shift in gaming that occurred at that time. And I've just been a big fan of the series ever since. And it's not something we get to talk about a ton just because Nintendo and GTA don't overlap a lot. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. I agree. It is difficult when we haven't seen actual in-game footage. But I have to imagine that has to be happening soon, right?
It's coming out in
so, yeah.
a few months. It's not far off. But man, I was huge into the PSP, and when Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories came out, and you had like PS2 quality GTA games in the palm of your hands, and you're just able to free roam wherever you were, that was absolutely nuts. And if GTA 6 does come to Switch 2, I think I probably will go for it. Because it's, GTA is great to play, whether it's online or the story, but just messing around, that sounds so cool on a portable system that you can just pick up anywhere.
It's a difficult decision for me because while I think that GTA has an unearned reputation for having like really good graphics, and I don't mean that to say that the graphics are bad before you write a comment. I mean it to say that they are often praised for being at like the cutting edge of technology when they release, and they absolutely are not. They're Rockstar knows how to make an open world as performant as they can, but I remember on the PS2, people still had claw hands in GTA.
Oh, they did, yeah.
So it's not right at the cutting edge of technology. But I think what I would need is a cross-save system, like a cross-progression system, because I could see GTA being a game that I would want to play on the couch, like in handheld mode, but then wanting to take that full save, and when it's time to play on the TV, play it on something like my PS5 Pro or even my PC, which definitely isn't happening, but just to get the best possible graphics performance out of it when I'm on, when I'm ready to sit down with a controller and have some dedicated TV time for it. But I mean, also, John, you have much younger kids than I do, so GTA on a smaller screen is probably better.
Yeah, GTA on the TV is a no-go. I had a time where I was playing GTA 4 like a few months ago, and Freddie kept waking up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and I just wanted to play a bit of GTA because, I had nothing else to do. And you got to play like a law-abiding citizen when a child's watching you, like just stopping at the traffic lights, just driving around, making no progress. Still had he enjoyed it. He had a good time. But yeah, that's the kind of game that really does thrive on a handheld, like just keeping it personal to yourself, staying away from family. I guess it does depend how much they cut it back, though, because I can deal with making the crowds way smaller. I can deal with making traffic way smaller. If it gets to resolution that looks like Arc before the patch on Switch 1, that's too far. But if it still looks decent, if it manages to look like PS4 quality, I think that's absolutely fine. I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah, I think that could be really cool. Ash, I assume you're on the outside of this.
A little bit. I absolutely respect the cultural impact, of course, GTA 3 and the GTA franchise has had on gaming in general. It's just there's not ever really been my thing a whole lot. The one I spent the most time with was 4, and I had a good time. I played a little bit of 5, played a little bit of San Andreas, a little bit of 3. It's just not for me. I respect it, and I get why it's so widely beloved, and I know people are so hyped out of their minds for 6. I'm just kind of, as you said, on the outside of it. It's just never really been my thing as much.
This is the one. This is the one for you.
It's
a
love
love story.
Hey, you know
romantic.
what? I will be. I'd be down to try it. You never know.
I may have to break our Switch coverage rule just to talk about it when it comes out, because I know I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to have to get something out of it. But
yeah. I want to be part of the hype. Like, I want to be like, yeah, I'm so excited. And maybe this will be the one. Like you said, John, maybe this is the one to pull me in.
Rockstar always also do the PC version later. So they always launch on consoles first and then do PC like 2 years later. So even if Switch isn't there at launch, there's a strong chance that it's thereafter.
It's interesting to see Rockstar's approach to the Switch 2, because it feels very similar to the Switch 1, where they're just taking games and they're like, hey, well, we'll throw you a bone here. Here's Red Dead Redemption 1 with the Switch 2 port. And we'll sell it as a code in a box, which I have to say is probably in this year of our Lord 2026 my most despised activity.
Bethesda were shouting about their new Skyrim and Fallout 4 physicals on their social, like they were proud of them. It's like, you can pre-order our new code in a box, Fallout and Skyrims. No, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Can't wait to dust that off in a few years and remember that I redeemed the code. But I have to say, for people that are mad about game key cards, you should be infinitely more upset by code in a box. Code in a box is terrible. I remember feeling deflated when I actually bought the Starfield Special Edition, and it is objectively one of the coolest special editions I've ever purchased. But one of the most deflating things about it was that when you open it, it is a code in a box. Like it comes with a lot of cool stuff. And I will say the code is etched into a piece of metal, which is neat, but it's still just a code.
Yeah.
That and Spider-Man 2 were both code in a box. And I was shocked by that. Especially because Spider-Man 2 came with a freaking steelbook.
Yeah, there's been a phase since like the 360 era where special editions just don't come with the game. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Your most dedicated collectors absolutely do not want the
That's really
game.
messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange to me, especially because it's not like Starfield and Spider-Man 2 did not get physical releases. You could go to any store right now and buy a physical copy of either of those games. But the special edition, which in both cases
ridiculous.
were over $200, didn't come with the actual disc. And I thought that was just crazy talk.
Yeah.
Discs are so expensive to print, man. We can't do it.
Yeah, you just can't.
That's
press
actually
a
kind of
disc.
diabolical, honestly. That's really,
It really
that's
is.
really bad.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I used to think it was bad when a special edition console that was tied to a game didn't come with the game, but this is just worse. Now it's the special edition game not coming with the game. But John, you said crazy talk, and I want to talk about some of your crazy talk. So those of you that didn't tune in last week, the topic was, and I will fully cop to not having watched it yet, John. So
that's okay.
Educate me.
It's mostly just complaining about you the entire time.
That makes sense.
That dank Steve.
That tracks. That explains the higher view count.
Yeah.
But you posited whether or not we need directs, and give me the digest version of this. Where did you land on this?
Went back and forth a little bit, but I think the core takeaway from us was that Nintendo, they've been pretty active lately with Nintendo Today, like giving us the Rhythm Heaven release date, giving us the Splatoon Raiders blowout. They've been pretty happy just throwing announcements out there whenever they want to. And with Nintendo Directs, you get so many games in one presentation, and a lot of them are overshadowed by the big stuff. See, you remember the big Nintendo games, but you don't necessarily remember the third-party ones. And so with partners, they give a whole platform to them, and everybody gets like equal sharing. With full Nintendo Direct, you come in exclusively really for where's Mario, where's Zelda, where's all that stuff. And we're in an era now where do we necessarily need all that? Especially when we're not in the Wii U era anymore, where you basically had no games in some months. We have a game every week at this point. The Switch 2 has a lot of stuff to play. And the release calendar is filled up until August. I think we don't have a game in June, but other than that, it's until August. So it's not like we need like announcement. We have that stuff flowing. So the core takeaway was like, do we actually need directs? But obviously they're exciting, but if we never had one again, what would change?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can totally see where you're coming from. And I guess the way I would approach it is like, I need the occasional direct, like I need the occasional bottle of soda. I don't need it, but I want it selfishly, right? Like sometimes I just want to indulge in an exciting hour of just bombastic announcements, but is it needed? No, because at the end of the day, what really would change, as you just said, John?
Yeah.
I should think from a selfish standpoint, but I want it. Give me that sugar rush of announcements after announcement after announcement for 45 minutes, right? But yeah,
in the Switch 2 era, we've had two. this whole year. We had that one where it was revealed. That stuff was needed. Like, we needed to know about Donkey Kong and more about Mario Kart and about Final Fantasy VII and Elden Ring and Cyberpunk. Like, that stuff was that we needed that stuff. The only other one though, apart from like individualized directs like Tomodachi Life, we had one other, and there wasn't a whole lot. I can barely remember what was in that one. I actually don't remember what was in that one. I think there was like one big Nintendo game in there, and it's
and otherwise it's been partner showcases and indie worlds.
Yeah.
I think there's if I look at it from a strictly business perspective, I think that Nintendo Directs do, at least in the near term, need to continue to exist. And the reason I say that is because Nintendo hasn't built up Nintendo Today enough, like as a main, means of communication with their audience. I think that I know a lot of people who, gosh, what was it? We posted about Rhythm Heaven the day that happened. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were like, thank you for posting this. I don't want to get the Nintendo Today app. And so obviously Nintendo has some work to do there in terms of building that as a channel where they can get communication and get stuff out. I think they don't really help themselves by making it difficult to share content from that app out to external places.
Yeah.
I think if you're sitting in a room full of people who all work for Nintendo, to them, it all sounds like a really good idea to have a closed ecosystem where you control everything and allow announcements to happen the way you want them to. But the problem is not everyone, even your core fans, are going to sign up for that. Whereas with social media platforms like Twitter and Bluesky or wherever else you want to be active, you can, you reach a much larger audience because people are there for much more than just Nintendo. You're on Twitter for the racism or whatever it is that you're signing up for Twitter for in 2026. And I think that Nintendo enjoys a much wider net there. I think where you end up with kind of an issue though is that, like you said, John, the signal to noise ratio on directs is getting higher or lower, right? Like you're getting a lot of things, and by the end of watching it, you're like, I remember 2 or 3 things that I really liked, and there were 15 more that I need to go rewatch it to remember. And a month on, good luck. So I think Nintendo probably acknowledges that they want to do something more effective than directs currently are. As a fan, I love them. I get excited for them. Every time they announce one of these things at 6 a.m., I'm up in bed on my phone watching it, and rather than sleeping. But I think when it comes to the audience size Nintendo is trying to reach, the vast majority of people aren't really locking in the way they used to, because now everybody has their own take on the direct. And, we've got State of Play, we've got Xbox. Hell, Xbox calls it a direct.
Yeah.
And so, and you've got just tons of developers and publishers doing the same format now. So it's not unique the way it once was.
Yeah. Also, they're very good lately. Not so much with Rhythm Heaven and Splatoon Raiders, but other than them, they're very good at announcing their games and releasing them in quite a short period. Rhythm Heaven and Splatoon are some weird outliers in that.
True.
But it's the way that it should be done, I think. Like, they shouldn't just announce things for the sake of it. Because then that's nothing really. Like, the Splatoon Raiders reveal was strange because you had no idea what that game was. It's just like a Splatoon game is coming. I think that was a worthless announcement really. And I much prefer when, like, oh, here's a game, it's out later this year, it's out in a few months. If they want to just announce Mario and Zelda now, I mean, it's not really the time. It's more the time to give the spotlight to the stuff that's imminent.
I agree. I think that I was going to say that I think Zelda and Mario are 2 of the only IPs that can hold water for an announcement like that. You can announce a Zelda 5 years in advance and people will wait for it. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like you said, a smaller IP, which is funny to say because I think Splatoon has grown quite a bit, but a smaller IP like Splatoon, people don't want to wait years and years to see that game. They want to see it immediately. And I think there is this really smart strategy that Nintendo has mostly been employing, like you said, with a couple exceptions of announcement to release being like 90 days.
Yeah.
And that's enough time for you to see it, get excited about it, for them to get people like us to cover it, and then the game comes out and you're able to play it. And I think that that's kind of, I'm sure somewhere there's some very cynical study that no one would want to read about what the optimal timing for stuff like this is, you know, how long people keep it in their conscience before they move on and stop wanting it. Yeah. And I would imagine 90 days is like that key window where you need to get it into people's consciousness and then you put it on store shelves so that people can give you their money for it.
Yeah. I think Rhythm Heaven was just Switch 1 confidence. They were still making Switch 1 games.
Right.
Splatoon, I don't know what that was.
Splatoon was weird. That was a really strange outlier, especially for such a, you know, like you were saying, Steve, a big IP at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with some of these things, and it's worth noting, you know, that Nintendo, like other developers, it's probably way more chaotic than we realize in there. Like they're probably, we think we can get this game out by then, and then it misses the date, and they have to push it back internally without ever having announced anything. If I had to guess, Raiders went through something like that. Like they were pretty confident they were going to hit a target date internally for going gold on the game, and then they just didn't, or they, you know, needed to push it back, or people got moved around to other projects or something. And then, you know, we ended up with this like incredibly long silence about a game that seemed like it was going to come out very close to the Switch 2's release date. But yeah, now that we know more about it, it is a bit more baffling. It's like it's a smaller single player game, probably in the 10 to 15 hour range, and we're talking about, you know, a year on from release. So I do wonder with stuff like that. Like I think we need less of that in gaming overall.
We're going to get the USK rating for Splatoon Raiders and figure out it was actually finished like 3 years ago. So with Tomodachi Life, we figured that was done over a year ago at this point. They do this a lot. They hold on to this stuff.
You know, it's funny. I just looked it up, and the length from announcement to release for Rhythm Heaven is actually longer than Splatoon. But for some reason, Splatoon has felt longer to me. I don't know why, but it just has felt like Splatoon has just been waiting for a lot longer than Rhythm Heaven, at least from when we found out about it. But that's actually not true. It's been a couple of months less for Splatoon. So maybe it's my own bias, and I'm just obviously a big Rhythm Heaven fan. But I was like, wait, that's exactly the opposite of what I thought.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, like John said, you know, that Nintendo tends to hold on to games for a really long time. I think, what was it? Everybody 1-2 Switch was done for years, almost 3 years or something.
So was Fire Emblem Engage. That was a really long one. Yep,
and they just couldn't figure out what to do with it. And I think there's got to be some kind of interesting calculus that happens in Kyoto, you know, about when to release these games, when they'll have the most impact, and when people will be most primed to purchase them. And I'm sure that it includes stuff like, I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo themselves are probably avoiding November 2026 at this point, you know, just because GTA 6, and they know they'll have to compete for people's dollars or whatever your currency is at that point in time.
I mean, Nintendo's so unique in their release schedule, because you look at Sony and they have years where it's like, they do 2 games. Sometimes it's a bit more. Sometimes it's like 4. Sometimes it's 1. But it's very rare that they have like a game every month. That's never happened. And right now you're seeing people with Capcom being like, man, they've done Resident Evil, they've done Pragmata, they've done Monster Hunter Stories 3. They've got Onimusha coming up. It's like, wow, they're really on a roll here. But Nintendo have literally had like a game a month for almost every month ever. Like sometimes they skip a month or so, but their release calendar is so healthy that they can just hold on to games and hold them back and wait until there's an ideal month for them. I think they're the only one in the industry that does that.
Right. And I think it's a lesson that they took, in particular from the N64 and GameCube eras, where, you know, I remember being a card-holding member of the N64 fan club as a teenager, and having to wait 6-7 months between releases, you know, going a very long time in the prime of the console's life, just waiting for Nintendo to release anything. And so I think that they earned at the time a reputation for not even supporting their own hardware as much as they should. And I think Iwata was very smart to recognize how they could restructure the company to prevent this from happening. And clearly that's bearing fruit. Because like you said, John, the Switch 2 has had something to play every month since release. And we really haven't, the droughts of yore don't really seem to be a thing that I would expect to see from Nintendo. They're so well optimized in their development pipeline that it's kind of nuts that I can just look at the calendar and be like, what's coming out this month? First party from Nintendo, and there's
when I
always
see the
something.
word drought now, I'm like, you don't know. You don't know
have
what
no idea.
a drought is.
Yeah.
In the Wii U era, I think it's actually a little bit overemphasized because we had 3DS at the same time, and there usually was like a 3DS or a Wii U game most months, usually on the 3DS side. But yeah, look back at GameCube and GBA and N64 and Game Boy. There were definitely months where they didn't have anything for long stretches.
Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah,
it was bad.
As a fellow old, I hear you. Yeah,
it was truly, back. I remember back in the days, we attached monikers to ourselves, like on whatever predated social media. I guess Game FAQs forums or whatever, or IGN forums. But you were like Wii 60, PS Wii, or like PS Wii 60. Everybody knew that if you had a Nintendo console, you had something else because you weren't getting enough to play. And so you were, it was like, what was your other console of choice? For me, it was mostly the 360. And I would just dust off the Wii when something cool from Nintendo came out, but then the vast majority of my time was spent elsewhere. These days, I don't have to do that. It's actually, for me, quite rare that I will play something other than my Switch. I have everything. I have an Xbox. I have a PS5. I have a PC that's capable. But Nintendo is giving me enough to do on my Switch 2 that I don't really have to, unless a game is just objectively better on another platform, or, in the rare case, unfortunately, that Sony has come out with like a good first party game, like a big new first party game, then I'll check that out. But it really feels like the tables have somewhat turned. Like these days, Nintendo has more than enough to play, and it is a very long wait between exclusives for my PS5 or my Xbox.
Yeah.
It's the first time ever, really. Like Switch 1, I think, lacked in certain genres. Like you didn't really get very many racing games or shooters on the Switch 1. So far, Switch 2 is just basically getting all the stuff everyone's getting. We're still building up to that point, but already there are more genres filled in desirable ways than Switch 1 ever had. There's already a lot more like really compelling shooters on the Switch 2. Like especially the live service ones like Fortnite, Overwatch, Apex. They're all on Switch 1, but not in ways I'd want to play though.
It's an interesting thing that you mentioned. I play a lot of Fortnite, like a ridiculous amount. It's a game I play with my kids. It's a game I play with my best friend. And I do really like playing it at 4K 120 on competing platforms. But that being said, it runs very well on Switch 2. I think Fortnite in particular, I really enjoy on Switch 2. Because I now have like a portable version of Fortnite that is actually playable. I played Fortnite on Switch 1 and that was horrific. It was a terrible way to play the game.
That was the same with Fall Guys too. Fall Guys on Switch 1 was just awful. Horrible experience from end to end. And I still get together every week with buddies and play both Fall Guys and Rocket League. And Rocket League is a perfect example of what you just said about Fortnite, Steve. Like, if I can, I'll play on the PS5 4K 120. It's great. But Switch 2 portable mode Rocket League is great, whereas Switch 1 was not. It's such a huge improvement.
Yeah, massive improvements happening on these games, but it is weird to live in a world where now a lot of live service games are coming. I mean, we just saw the announcement of Final Fantasy 14 coming to Switch 2, and I don't think people appreciate how massive that is. I'm not someone who plays it, but I can understand. This is a full-fledged PC MMO coming to Switch 2.
Yeah, this is the kind of game where you can play this and nothing else. And many people do play this and nothing else, and they're happy. It's a huge game, it's funny, like looking back to the roots, like this was on PlayStation 3 originally. Obviously, it's outgrown.
Crazy,
that. But to have it on a portable is just that's so big. Being able, especially with crossplay as well, having all like really big populated worlds, just going around at that scale. Like we've never had that on a portable before.
Well, and you mentioned about how it started off on PS3. There is such a tremendously large amount of content now coming to the game that they had to sunset the PS3 version and are soon going to be sunsetting the PS4 version. That's just how much content there is in this game. It's wild.
It is. It's if you have nothing but Final Fantasies on the Switch too, like you need an SD card. You can barely have Remake and Rebirth on the Switch 2 without one because they're 100 gigabytes each.
Yeah,
and that leaves you like what 50 gigs left. 14. I don't know what that is now, but it's probably another 100 gigs or something.
Yeah,
it's got to be somewhere close. It's a very. I'm still really optimistic about the future of the Switch 2. I feel like throughout this episode, we've been talking about, the limitations of the Switch 2, but truly it feels like we're not even close to realizing those yet. And I mean, it makes sense. The console's less than a year old. We're coming up on the first anniversary of the Switch 2, which is insane to think about. It feels like it happened yesterday for me. But I think that I think even with the Switch 1 in its first year, we saw games that felt compromised. I feel like we're not seeing that nearly as much here. I feel like there's still a lot of headroom, and I still haven't been able to think of a game where I'm like, for sure, this just wouldn't work. I think that every game that is currently being made to some degree could probably work on the Switch 2. I mean, if I can see it running on Series S or Steam Deck even, then it can absolutely happen on Nintendo's hardware.
Well, speaking of upcoming games, we know 10 from various rating boards. Should I go over them real quick? What we're getting?
Yeah. We a couple of these are just from last night as of the recording of this video.
Yeah, we've compiled some from around like January time until now. So we have from the ESRB, which is probably the least exciting ones, but some pretty cool games still. Clive Barker's Hellraiser: A Revival, Hell Is Us, Blood West, and a new game called Enchanted Wonderland from Konami. No idea what that is. And then Taiwan, which is giving us probably the coolest ones. Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. Devil May Cry 5 Devil Hunters Edition. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. And then Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. And then lastly from Peggy, we got Hi-Fi Rush, which was back in January. Tales of Eternia as well, which is a PlayStation and PSP game. And then the next in line in the Tales remasters, apparently. But cool stuff. And nothing like too wild. Some of the ESRB ones, like Hellraiser and Hell Is Us, they are current gen. They do look really good on like PS5 and PC. But Dragon Quest XI's, that's probably just going to be a port of the current gen ones, which in themselves are ports of the Switch ones. It's a complicated situation. So with Dragon Quest XI, they remade it for the Switch to run, which means they also downgraded it. And then when they brought it to PS5 and Series X, they ported the Switch version along at higher resolution. Mm-hmm. So like the original PS4 version technically looks better, like has better lighting and all that, but it doesn't have the extra content. So we're most likely getting just a higher res Switch 1 game. Still cool though.
Yeah.
And then Tales of Eternia, it's probably just a nice 2D remaster of the PlayStation game.
Man. These are cool things, but it's so weird that we're getting so many of these from ratings boards. Like these would do well as social media announcements, or even, I mean, we've got enough that it could be a shorter partner direct at this point.
Yeah.
Cool stuff too. We're actually touching upon the cloud games a lot. Hitman had a cloud version.
Oh, right.
We've got it on Switch too. Resident Evil 7 and 8 had cloud versions. We got them on Switch too. Guardians of the Galaxy had a cloud version, and we're about to get that on Switch too.
I'm so glad we're done with cloud versions of games.
God, me too. And I would still like to see Square Enix maybe get around to issuing non-cloud versions of the Kingdom Hearts games on Switch too, because as we know, that is not the way to play those games. So that would be nice to have like actually native versions of Kingdom Hearts.
They shouldn't have been cloud 2 on Switch 1.
At least not 1.5 and 2.5. Maybe the others you can make an argument, but certainly not the PS2 games.
There's a topic that I didn't plan to include in this show, but given the panel and given what we're currently talking about, I want to bring this up. But a lot of people say where there's smoke, there's fire. And with Square Enix, I've noticed two things recently. We've been getting a lot of Kingdom Hearts and a lot of Chrono Trigger merch lately.
There you're going.
Do you think that we are maybe closer than we think to a potential Chrono Trigger remake and a Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement? Like, obviously it's been announced, but I mean, like, something more concrete than it exists.
It's hard to say with Square and merch.
Man,
like
right?
Last
It's
year,
so hard.
They were like, this is a big year for Chrono Trigger. And we got all this merch.
Yeah.
And it's going to lead to something. And literally nothing happened.
Right. Nothing.
Yeah.
I want to believe, I'll just quote the X-Files. I want to believe in a Chrono Trigger something happening on the horizon. There are rumors kicking around out there, but who knows? It's Square. All I know is it still doesn't make sense to me that we've got its sequel on modern consoles, but not any version of Chrono Trigger, even a port. But it seems to be well in line for the HD2D treatment, or as we saw recently with DQ7 Reimagined, the diorama treatment. That game also has a gorgeous art style that would fit Chrono Trigger as well. Man, I hope so. Whatever form a remake would take, I want to see it happen. Kingdom Hearts 4, on the other hand, I think we're still not going to hear that much more about that until after FF7 Part 3 is out the door. I think that's the focus. I think they're trying to get it ready for FF7's 30th anniversary. I think that's their main thing right now. And then after that is when the KH4 deluge is going to start.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm very excited for whatever they do with the finale of the remake trilogy.
Oh, me too.
Chrono Trigger has gotten a lot of new stuff just in the last couple of weeks. Like Square Enix released some figures for the first time, I think, ever. They did a pop-up in Japan where they did a lot of Chrono Trigger specific merchandise, like a re-release of the soundtrack, like a new printing of the soundtrack, and a bunch of other stuff that I've seen it all over my social media feeds.
Well, speaking of the soundtrack, they're doing an orchestra tour as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to remember. I was I know there's another thing.
Yeah, my wife got both of us tickets for my birthday because it's like a month after my birthday, and I don't think I'm going to make it through that show without being reduced to a pile of goo by the end. It's just going to be it's still like 2 hours of Chrono Trigger music live, man. If that's not leading up to a remake announcement, I don't know what is.
I think the core problem that Square have with Chrono Trigger is like it's never really translated to massive sales. I was just Googling what like the overall sales of Chrono Trigger are. So in like the last 30 years, across Super Nintendo, DS, mobile, and PC, and Virtual Console, it did 5 million total, which is good. But obviously for like a game that's heralded as like one of the best games of all time, it doesn't like quite reach that number. I think the problem is that most people probably played it on an emulator at this point. There's never like been like a great, easy way to play it outside of that PC version. So I think it has more fans than numbers lead on. I bet so many people emulated that game.
Oh, easily. I mean, definitely. When you go and you look at the cost of getting the game on any platform, like a physical copy of that game on any platform, you have to resort to eBay or your marketplace of choice. And that game is hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. Yeah. Even my DS copy is worth over $100. And if you're talking about the Super Nintendo version, particularly the US Super NES version, you could pay into the thousands for a copy of Chrono Trigger if you want it complete. If you want the loose cart, it's still like almost $300 on average.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunately, a lot of people are priced out of having that experience, because I know loads of people who don't have a gaming PC, who only have modern consoles, and you're locked out of playing Chrono Trigger that way. You can't. And so your only option is to find a way to emulate it. I feel for those people because, to me, it is one of the greatest games of all time. I think it's required reading for people who love games. And, but Square Enix has made sure that you can't do that. So I think that even a simple port would be great. I'd be happy. I'd be over the moon if it appeared on NSO or something. But even if they did a Fire Red and Leaf Green and put it on the eShop as an SNES ROM for $15, I'd be
Dude,
happy with that.
This is Square. It's going to be 25 minimum if they go that route.
Yeah.
And I'd still pay it. Don't get me wrong. I'd still pay it.
They remade Live Alive in HD 2D, right?
Yeah.
And like that game didn't sell 5 million. It's like if that can do it, Chrono, it's gonna happen. It's more a question of when.
Right. That's kind of how I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to believe.
I feel like it's a matter of time. I think that there are certain games that are almost certain to be remade in our lifetimes. Ocarina of Time is on that list for me. Chrono Trigger's on that list for me. I think that there are games that are so wildly beloved that it would be insane for publishers to leave that potential money on the table. Like they know that they'd sell it and that it would sell well and that it would review well. You know, there are very few games in this world where you can go into the development process knowing that it's going to have a high Metacritic score and probably sell pretty well. And Chrono Trigger is on that very short list of games that is almost a sure thing to generate a good return. So it would be wild to me if Square Enix wasn't actively exploring the possibility. And I think tinfoil hat time for me, I think that these things, this merch, these drops have to be a way of subtly gauging interest in terms of, projections for how well a potential remake would sell. Like, hey, how many people are going out and buying the new merchandise? Oh, well, we can extrapolate from that the game will do X number of dollars or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, then hopefully plenty of people are buying the merch and getting concert tickets and all the other stuff because I need it. I need that Chrono Trigger remake in my life.
As do we all. Yeah. But I think that's probably a pretty good stopping point for us this week. Go buy Chrono Trigger if you somehow have you know what, if you have that money, just sub it to our Patreon. It's fine.
Yeah.
play
if you have
PC
Chrono
version.
Trigger money. But yeah, play the Steam version if you can. I strongly recommend it. On a serious note, it's the cheapest way to get your hands on it. It's a perfectly serviceable version of the game, and you can run it on a potato because it's a Super Nintendo game. So if you got that Chromebook from school, install Steam on it.
It took like 5 patches to get there, but the Steam version now is in a genuinely good place. Like it was rough going for a while there, but it is now landed in a really nice place.
Yeah, and playing it on Steam Deck is dope. It's a really cool way to play it because again, Super Nintendo games are perfect for portable play in 2026. So if you have a Steam Deck, anything like that, Chrono Trigger, Steam, get that one, play it. It's absolutely worth your time. And it's a game that is 100% worth legally acquiring if you have the means to do so. But that's going to do it for us this week. Gosh, I don't even know what we'll talk about next week. Is there a game coming out? Of course not. It's going to be May.
We'll just talk about our favorite animals.
Yeah.
For an hour.
Nice.
Yeah, join us next week. I'll prepare a monologue on the giant panda.
Yeah. What's the best animal to play Switch 2 on? Like, can you imagine playing Switch 2 on a horse? That'd be pretty rad.
It has to be like a really fat dog.
Seems really dangerous.
Like an overweight dog.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't want to move too much anymore. Like, I have access to a 12-year-old dog that's really overweight. I would just lay him in my lap and play the Switch 2
there you go.
on said
I don't
dog.
like the words, I have access to a dog. Like,
He was my dog.
it sounds like he's in a basement somewhere.
He might be. I love you, Sterling. You should lose some weight, though. It's not good for your knees. All right. With that, I think that's a great time to go. I hope you are happy, safe, and healthier than my 12-year-old dog wherever you are. And we'll see you next week right here for more Week in Nintendo. Until then, bye, everyone. Right.
We did it.
Yeah.